The first time the letter arrived, it was addressed in handwriting Daniel had not seen in 23 years. The ink had faded to a soft blue, the loops uneven, as if the writer's hand had hesitated mid-thought. He almost threw it away, assuming it was another bill or an advertisement trying too hard to feel personal. But something in the way his name curved across the envelope stopped him. Daniel Hale. No middle initial. No last name shouted in block letters. Just his name, written the way it used to be written by someone who knew how it sounded when spoken softly. He stood in the doorway of his small apartment, the late afternoon light pressing through the blinds in tired stripes. Outside, traffic murmured, and somewhere a child laughed, a sound so light it felt like an accusation. Daniel turned the envelope over in his hands, feeling its thinness, its restraint. There was no return address. He didn't open it until evening. He made dinner first, if reheated soup could be called dinner, and washed a single bowl, drying it with care as though the act itself might steady him. When he finally tore the envelope, his fingers trembled, and he hated that they did. Daniel, the letter began. I don't know if you'll want to read this. I don't know if you'll forgive me for writing at all. But I'm running out of time, and there are things I never said. He sat down slowly, the chair creaking beneath him, the room suddenly too quiet. He knew the voice instantly. Claire. The name moved through him like a current. He hadn't spoken it aloud in years, not even in moments of weakness. He had buried it beneath routines and responsibilities, beneath the careful life he had built after everything fell apart. Yet there it was, alive again, breathing on the page. She wrote about the past in fragments, as if afraid to linger too long on any single memory. She wrote about the summer they met, about the way he used to whistle when he cooked, always off-key, always smiling when she teased him for it. She wrote about the night she left, though she did not explain it, only acknowledged the silence that followed and the years that grew out of it like weeds. I am sick, Daniel. That is the simplest way to say it. I have been sick for a while. There are treatments, but they are no longer working the way they hoped. I don't know how much time I have. I am not asking you to come back into my life. I am not asking for anything. I just needed you to know that I never stopped loving you, even when I believed leaving was the only way to save us both. The letter ended with an address and a date written beneath it. If you want to see me, she wrote, I will be here. If you don't, I understand. I have already taken enough from you. Daniel folded the letter and unfolded it again, as if the words might rearrange themselves into something easier to bear. His chest felt tight, each breath shallow and careful. He thought of all the nights he had spent replaying their last argument, the sharpness of her voice, the way she had looked past him instead of at him. He had told himself he was over it. He had told himself he was whole again. He didn't sleep that night. He lay on his back, staring at the ceiling, listening to the old building settle and sigh. By morning, his decision felt less like a choice and more like gravity. He packed a small bag, left a note for his neighbor who fed his cat when he traveled, and locked the door behind him. The drive took 6 hours. Fields blurred into towns, towns into stretches of empty road. Daniel kept the radio off, preferring the steady hum of the engine to the intrusion of voices. With every mile, memories surfaced uninvited. Claire's laugh in the rain. The way she used to tuck her feet under his legs on the couch. The weight of her absence after she left, how it had filled every corner of his life until he learned to live around it. The address led him to a coastal town he barely recognized. It was quieter than he remembered, the air heavy with salt and something sweeter, like late-blooming flowers. He parked across the street from a small white house with peeling paint and a porch that sagged slightly in the middle. For a long moment, he stayed in the car, his hands gripping the steering wheel. He knocked twice. The door opened slowly, and there she was. Claire looked smaller, her shoulders narrower, her hair streaked with gray she hadn't bothered to hide. But her eyes were the same, impossibly alive, their color shifting between green and blue depending on the light. When she saw him, her breath caught, and for a heartbeat, neither of them spoke. I didn't think you'd come, she said finally, her voice soft and unsteady. I didn't think I wouldn't, he replied, surprised by his own honesty. They stood there, the years between them thick and tangible. Then she stepped aside, and he entered the house that smelled faintly of lemon and old books. They sat at a small kitchen table, hands wrapped around mugs of tea that steamed and cooled without being touched. She told him about the illness in careful, measured words. He listened, asking questions he didn't want the answers to. At times, the conversation drifted into silence, but it was not the awkward kind. It was the kind that carried understanding, that allowed grief and regret to sit openly between them. I left because I was afraid, she said at last, her fingers tracing the rim of her mug. Afraid of needing you too much. Afraid of becoming someone I didn't recognize. I told myself you'd be better without me. Daniel felt something crack inside him, something old and brittle. I wasn't, he said. But I survived. She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. I know. The days that followed unfolded gently. He stayed in a small inn by the water and visited her every morning. They walked along the shore when she felt strong enough, their steps slow, their shoulders occasionally brushing. They talked about everything and nothing, about books and regrets, about the lives they had lived apart. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the sky burned orange and pink, Claire stopped walking and turned to him. Do you hate me? She asked. He thought about it, about the anger he had carried for so long, how heavy it had been. I did, he said. But not anymore. She smiled then, a real smile, and reached for his hand. Her skin felt fragile, but her grip was sure. In that moment, Daniel understood that forgiveness was not about forgetting. It was about choosing not to let the past define the present. Her health declined quickly after that. There were days she could barely get out of bed, days when the pain etched lines into her face. Daniel stayed anyway. He read to her, cooked for her, held her hand when words failed. Sometimes she would fall asleep mid-sentence, and he would watch her breathe, memorizing the rhythm of it. One night, as rain tapped softly against the windows, she woke him and asked him to sit up. Promise me something, she whispered. What? He asked, his voice thick. Promise me you won't disappear again, she said. Not from yourself, not from the world. He swallowed hard. I promise. She died just before dawn, her hand still in his. The room was quiet, the world outside unchanged. Daniel felt the loss like a physical weight, pressing him down, but beneath it was something unexpected. Peace. At the funeral, people he didn't know thanked him for being there at the end. He nodded, accepting the gratitude, though it felt undeserved. He returned to his apartment days later, the space feeling both familiar and strange. Weeks passed, then months. Daniel began to notice small changes in himself. He lingered in conversations instead of rushing away. He played music while he cooked, whistling off-key, without caring who heard. One afternoon, he found the letter again, tucked inside a book he hadn't opened in years. He read it one last time, then folded it carefully and placed it in a box with photographs and keepsakes he no longer hid. That evening, he walked outside as the sun set, the sky wide and open above him.